Hey everybody, welcome back to the Crave Show with Chris and JRuss, and we have back-to-back sessions with Matt Fry. How you doing, Matt?
Woohoo!
Hey, doing great. Thanks for having me back on.
How come you're back on? What are we doing?
Well, here celebrating the successful California state record. We built a 103 person
Wow.
head down formation, waiting for USPA to ratify it. But if and when they make it official, this would be the first time in 10 years that we've built successfully a 100 plus way formation.
Right
Wow.
on.
That's so cool, man. Congratulations. That
Yeah,
is so
congrats.
awesome.
Yeah.
103. So cool.
Yeah.
Well, tell us about it. Like how many attempts? Like what was it like? What'd y'all do? How'd it work out? Was it easy? Was it
Sure.
hard? Almost
Yeah.
didn't get it? What?
Oh man, there's so much to say about it. First off, what number attempts? That's the first question everybody asks. Like, how
Yeah.
many did it take? And that's such a difficult question to answer because we have day one, which is like structured buildup, where it's actually 40 ways or 20 ways practicing their specific slot and their combination. So it's not a full 100 way, but it's still a warm up jump. And then we did two 100 way warm up jumps where not everyone is permitted to dock.
Okay.
So the officially actual record attempts was 5. The fifth one was a record. All of them built 100 plus. So every single actual attempt.
Wow.
And I think the first attempt was frames away from actually being a record. So man, it was pretty smooth. Officially jumped 5. Andy, my co-organizer, and I encountered a rare phenomenon for this event where there wasn't anything to do after we stopped jumping for the day. Like every other record event, as JRuss knows, you dismiss people for the day, they're released. All the organizers go in the back room. Maybe we get some pizza, and we spend hours combing through it, making changes, hard choices, and kind of developing a game plan for the next day. That could not be further from the case for this event. We had such a stellar team. They knew the program, they knew what to do, so that when we released them after day 1 and day 2, it's like, you want to go get dinner?
It's
There's no
too
work to be
easy.
done. Yeah.
That's so cool.
It's really incredible when the team makes our job that easy.
That's awesome. So those warm-up jumps that you were saying, like the 20 and 40 ways, are they actually still building their piece of the formation?
Yeah, so we strategically parceled out different sections of the formation
Okay.
to identify, how can everybody practice their slot specifically without having to go to 17,000 feet.
Yeah.
So in the 16 ways, when you fly some of these formations, some people might fly left leg forward, some people might fly right leg forward, and then you have leg traffic. And it's not that they're doing a bad job, but you realize this puzzle piece or this combination, it doesn't fit. So you want to make like a small adjustment.
Okay.
So it's really
Cool.
nice to do that in a small group where there's less stress, you're not going as high. You can just focus on those nuances before going to the big group.
Cool. And did y'all have any significant changes that had to be made or anything like that, or was it all pretty kind of expected
We had
stuff?
2 changes that we made the entire the entire event, which again is kind of a fluke, I think, in the history of records. So I'll take it.
Wow, that's cool, man. Very cool.
Excellent. So, Matt, I'm sure that the question that lots of people who are looking forward to the 200 way are wanting to know or wanting to ask. How was the engineering? How did you feel about the design, the spine and ribs, and how was the breakoff?
The breakoff is still, I'll do the hard question first. The breakoff is still a work in progress, right? I think a lot of folks are not stellar about it. But I'm not sure if there's ever been a big way world record where anybody feels stellar about the breakoff. So I'm trying to, right, Chris, the balance we have to find is we want to maximize the working time. So break off as low as possible, but we want to break off high enough that everyone can safely get clean airspace for deployment.
Okay.
So as organizers, it's just a balancing act of trying to set ourselves up for success for the record with as much time as possible, but making sure everybody's safe. So the first breakoff wave here was 56 people
Okay.
with 2,500 feet to track. And I think at the 200 way, we'd be looking at maybe in the 80s or 90s for the first wave, with 3,000 to 3,500 feet to track.
Okay. So you're exiting the plane at, what'd you say, 17?
Yeah, we started the attempts at 16.5 and then
Okay.
eventually went up to 17.5.
Okay. And that first breakoff wave is at what?
For the 100 ways, it was at 7,000 feet.
So you have 56 people breaking off at 7,000 feet, and they have, what'd you say?
2,500 feet?
Okay. So they need to be pulling by 4,500.
Correct.
Like need to be or have to be? Like this is like,
So,
like,
yeah, in this
I think this is
scenario,
interesting just for like people who really have no experience with this. Like this is really cool for us. So,
yeah. So in this scenario, this is where big wave belly formations typically differ from big wave vertical formations.
okay.
A belly formation, and I don't want to speak for all of them, but my impression is they depend on horizontal separation.
Okay.
Okay, so wave one always tracks further. Wave two tracks a little less. Wave three a little less, and then they all have the same or similar deployment altitude. So
Okay.
they're all on the same level. In our vertical formations, we'll typically introduce vertical separation.
Okay.
So that now means people deploying at different altitudes in addition to different horizontal distances. So in this particular event, we try to create effectively like a funnel. So
Mm-hmm.
everyone pulling the highest is the widest out, and then pulling a little lower, a little closer in, and a little lower, a little closer in.
Yeah.
And that has the peripheral benefit of also spreading out the landings because we have a lot of flyers on high performance canopies. And now having them at different altitudes and deployment staggers their landing for a tight landing area.
Are you taking into consideration lower wing loadings and putting them in the first wave so that they're higher up, or we're not really thinking through all?
No,
I mean, is
that would
that
be
too
really
much to
nice.
consider?
It would make a lot of sense, but
It's just too much.
it's too much. And also, the general rule of thumb we've usually agreed on is fly the wing you're comfortable with.
Okay.
Because if you're going to drive on the highway, you don't pull in a dump truck or a school bus, right?
Yeah.
Your regular car that you're used to, and you just merge into traffic and keep it smooth and predictable.
Yeah.
And that's how we keep those landing patterns safe, even with high performance canopies.
Nice. Okay. Very cool. I mean,
So
it kind of,
JRuss, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, when you describe the difference between belly and vertical, it makes sense that you guys would, in a sense, you're able to incorporate the vertical separation, where the belly, it's a little bit more difficult, right? Because is it correct that the first wave, when they break off, they don't immediately go to belly? Obviously, they're not. That's not safe. But as they break away and track off, they are slowly converting to more of a flat track, and they are increasing their glide ratio, which naturally brings about that vertical separation, right? I mean,
Yeah.
am I understanding correctly and verbalizing that in the right way? So that as they track away flat, maximize glide ratio, maximize horizontal separation, they are going to be naturally higher.
Right. And that's spot on, right? We convert that vertical speed to a horizontal push. But what we notice is participants do that in different ways,
Hmm.
right? We're not all cookie cutter.
Hmm.
And that transition from the vertical to the horizontal can dramatically influence how much horizontal push you get. And so
Okay.
by introducing some vertical separation, we have an extra buffer of safety, as
Okay.
opposed to if and when we've used solely horizontal, then we have scenarios where wave two catches wave one,
Mm-hmm.
or someone from the inner wave catches an outer wave. And in that scenario, neither flyer is expecting the other. So it's usually coming from a blind spot, right at deployment altitude. So by introducing vertical separation and those hard decks, we have an extra tolerance for error or
Yeah. Okay.
inconsistencies among flyers.
Interesting. Okay. Can I share with you a experience that I had at one of the phase one camps?
Sure.
and then you can help me. I'll tell you what I finally think I realized was happening, and you guys can help me figure out, yeah, that's probably it, or maybe not. But so I was in the first, and we were only doing, it's phase 1. So we're only doing like 12 or 14 way or something. I don't remember how many of us there were, but it wasn't a big group. But I was the first group to track off. And so after the first one of the guys that was in the second group that was having to take a similar line to me, I mean, it was a different line, but very similar. He's like, yeah, I saw you, I saw you deploy and under canopy or something. He was like, we were kind of close together. I was like, oh man, I really thought I was tracking really hard. Like, okay. So the next time I tracked, like, I mean, I'm moving, like, I know I'm moving as hard and as fast as I can, as far as I can go. Same thing. He's like, yeah, dude, I saw you again. I was like, So the third time, same thing, but it kept happening. So after I left the event, I was only able to stay for like a day and a half, and I had to leave early. But the more I kept thinking about it, because like, what was I doing wrong? What was happening? And what I think I finally realized was that I was actually tracking too long. So that by the time I actually pulled, I was too low compared to where I should have been. Had I tracked the right amount of time and pulled, I would have been higher, and he would have tracked under me and not seen me. Does that make sense? Do you think that's right? Does that jive with what you guys are trying to do, or not necessarily?
Yeah, depending what the break-off plan is, that's conceivable. So usually when we have that vertical separation, you can be aware of the wave in front of you, but they should be deploying higher while you continue tracking.
Yeah.
But that really depends the nuances of that camp.
Yeah.
Some of the camps we've experimented with kind of unorthodox break-off plans, so it's hard to
Hard
make
to
a
know. Exactly.
generalized statement.
Yeah.
Yeah, there could be a lot of factors.
Okay.
But like Dan BC has a great story about big ways, or a great comment about big ways. I'm not going to do this justice, but he'll lead a big way camp, and someone new to big ways will come over and be like, "Oh, there are a lot of canopies. They were really close to me." And BC's response is always like, "Well, where the hell did you expect them to be?" And it's a big way. Um,
Yes, that's the
so
way this works.
yeah, and I don't want to be cavalier
Yeah.
with, like, if you're concerned or it's too close or it's a safety issue, but to some extent, this is part of the beast. Um, so, like JRuss, to your earlier question, we're still soliciting feedback from the people in the first wave, which is the wave we're most curious about. So I'm happy to let you know once I have definitive feedback. But I don't think anybody ever reported back that there were issues that needed to be addressed, which is a strong start. But with the engineering in general, the daisy chain, so the core 40, worked phenomenally. Um, the spines and ribs worked really well. And I think the stoke level was quite high. It was the final proof of concept that these designs are tenable in the long term. So certainly we have a lot of work to do, shaping it out and being more stringent on how those ribs shape out to fit on another 97 people. But I can't remember the last time a 100 way was this easy. I don't want to be cavalier, but damn, that was awesome.
Yeah, I heard back from I think just Kyle Brady. I haven't heard from too many people yet. But his text, we were talking about other stuff today, and I think he said I had a great time at a very easy 103 way, and looking forward to the big way. And it's not. I mean, the story for me from the last couple of big ways is a first stinger, which is maybe not the most challenging spot. I don't think it is, but you need it to happen quickly, and you need to be able to do your job, I guess. Was just with my 5 people. It was a heck of a job. Like, and the people in my pod, I think I had Chad Ross and Brian Guile, Randy. God, what's Randy's last name? Lund. And then one other guy. But I mean, a pretty ripping pod. And looking at the video, at the point where we built 5 people, it was hard to hang on to the base. And so for somebody just to report back, hey, this is a pretty easy 100 way, that's a not things that normally go together for me. So that's great. Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, congratulations, man. Congratulations.
Yeah,
Very
yeah.
cool.
Thank you. Really, the team made it super easy. Like the team just handled it all. So that was phenomenal.
Nice.
That's awesome.
And can you, for the people who are out there, like we just had a phase 1 camp while you guys were doing the record. And there were a few people at the phase 1 who kind of they hadn't been exposed to some of the ground stuff that is a little bit new to what we're doing. And I'm pretty sure that also came as a recommendation from Dan BC. And I mean, like the way that you guys are kind of doing the stadium stop and walking it backwards and walking it forwards, and a little bit different idea on kind of stretching out the lines after we exit the plane. So would you mind just going over that a little bit for the people who are newer to big ways and just put those concepts in their head?
Hey, you guys, I'm sorry. I will be right back. I've got
Yeah.
Sure.
something going on at my house. I'll be right back. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Yeah. So hopefully, as most people know, right, the purpose of a dirt dive is to try to simulate the skydive coming up so that we're not surprised, we're not taken aback, we're prepared and are ready to just follow muscle memory. Um, so to do that, the dirt dive or the walk, we're doing the best we can to simulate that. So in this case, one way that seems to work best is we put everyone in their mock planes and we orient the planes just as if they would be flying. We'll have a super floater key, and then we mimic the exit order. And then from there, it's essentially a timeout where the floaters and divers switch sides relative to the base. This is because the base flips or rotates as it comes out the door. And then we line up in our exit frame, which is the intentional exit order. And so this becomes really critical with multi-plane formations because with 200 people just walking around, even on the ground, it's a mess. So trying to make sense of it in the sky is extra challenging. So if, let's say, you're exiting an otter, which is left, 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 left trail, you're a million miles away. During the walk, we'll line you up in single file as if you all just exited from the plane. And we'll try and line up that line relative to the base to correspond to the timing we're hoping to achieve. So hopefully that'll mimic your actual approach and your sight picture. And then that means, if you're carving or walking to the right on the ground, you'll have to do that in the sky and vice versa to the left. And so that helps you simulate and visualize your overall approach, the float, the dive, any carve, getting onto your radial. Dan BC is a huge fan of treating it like a sequential where you get into your stadium slot, which is generally, a big step back from where you're picking up your grip. Stopping there, reducing all motion, and then stepping in for your grip. And then there's different techniques from there, whether we walk it in reverse, walk it forward. There's a lot of different opinions on what is the most efficient way. And frequently that's also dictated by how much time we have. Like in Chicago in August, we're going to be on a strict timetable. And so we'll have to triage what's the most important component. So BC frequently recommends the plane mock-ups, do it once, but after that it's exit frame to slot, just get more reps on that critical component.
Any chance that we haven't had tremendous success with video sharing in the past, but any chance you have any video handy you want to try and share with us?
Sure. What is the best way to do that? Let's take a look.
Let's see.
Or does he need it? There's a share button.
Yeah. Do you have a share button on the bottom of your screen? Down there at the bottom.
I sure do.
Yeah. See if it'll let you share, dude. That'd be awesome.
Let me see if I can download a video real quick.
So while you're doing that, how does this connect with the world record? will this, I mean, this plays into that, right? Like, are all the people that were on this 103 way also going to be on the world record, or how
I
does
would
that
very
work?
much like that. That would be, man, that would make my life so much easier. Um, but not quite everybody, right? Like some people, they between financial or time commitments, they can only do one or the other.
Hmm.
Um, some people have just done so many records over the years that they're just kind of over it.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm trying to sell snow cones to Eskimos. Um, but yeah, like if we can build a 100 way from 16.5, the things we can do from 19,000 feet are endless. So that's really exciting. So I'm doing my best to get as many people as I can from the California record.
Okay. What do you guys think? Just obviously I mean, you're just spouting off, but what's the max that we'll ever get to?
Mm.
What's the biggest that you think is actually possible?
Matt, you want to go on this? You want me to go?
I would, I think getting much higher than 220s would be very difficult without military aircraft, bailout bottles, things of that nature. Um, yeah, I'd be pretty skeptical getting much higher than that. But what do you think, JRuss?
Well, the belly record is at 400. That's been there for a while. That that happened through the good grace of the Thai military, and I can't remember exactly if it was a 400th year anniversary of Thailand's existence or there was some family tradition.
It was the Queen's birthday that
Okay,
year.
but they sponsored that, and we actually had this chat after our phase one camp. We had a barbecue and sitting around the campfire, and people were asking the exact same question. And I think that there's possibilities to go bigger, and especially if you think about belly, they all approach from the top, and free flyers can approach from the bottom and the top. So there's potentially the possibility of going bigger even than they've gone. However, Thailand will never do that again. I don't think they understood the cost that it was going to be. And during my time in Dubai, I don't know if anybody will remember, some people will, but there was an attempt or a thrust to do a Dubai 500 way. And
Wow.
when the military from the United Arab Emirates said that they would donate the C-130s, then that was a doable task. When they heard the requirements that it was going to be as far as time at altitude and the number of pilots they were going to have, and then they said, I'm sorry, no, which was, I mean, imagine that the Crown Prince of Dubai asked the military to do something and they say yes, but then they later say no. Like there were some waves that went through the community. So there was a request on me, find somewhere else. Where can we get these C-130s? There's two different sizes of C-130, or two that I'm aware of. One of them, I believe, holds around 80 people, and one of them holds 100 or 110. So that's still 6 C-130s, and because of the time, the number of attempts, there's got to be 2 pilot crews. There was an Italian company that I found; they're the only ones that said they could do it. And their price tag. And you want to take a shot?
Hold on.
It was intended to be, I believe, a 5-day event. Just
six C-130s with 12 crews for 5 days. Dude, I mean, I'm just making up numbers. How would I even know? I have no idea. I'm gonna say $236,000. I'm making something up. I have no idea.
More than 10 million.
What?
Ooh.
Yep. And the project stopped right there. So, I mean,
$2 million a day?
Yep.
Wow.
So, I mean, there are ways it can get done.
What?
There's very wealthy countries in the world. And I mean, some of the Middle Eastern countries come to mind: Saudi Arabia, Qatar. Qatar has a very active skydiving community. Abu Dhabi, right next to Dubai, has a very active skydiving community. Their club is pretty small right now, but they obviously have the biggest tunnel in the world, and they are looking to put their mark on the world. For families for whom, millions of dollars. As a for instance, do you guys know that there was a fund that was established after the 9/11 towers came down, that gave money to the victims' families, wives and kids and buff people, not only the first responders, but the people who were in the towers. And some of those families, maybe $1.5 million, like there was a decent amount of money that they got. Not that they're going to replace anybody or that's going to make it right, but that came from the United Arab Emirates, and they donated, I believe it was somewhere around $560 million. It was kind of an arbitrary number until you realize how they arrived at that number. And that was one day of oil sales.
Wow.
Oil profit, not sales. So for some of those countries that, like Abu Dhabi's got, like, I don't know what it is, 10% of the global oil reserves in this tiny little country. They might want to do it, but it's going to be pricey. The other thing that I'm curious about, but this is a little bit esoteric for most people, but at the last 200 way, we had an issue with the quad left trail. I believe we only had 3 on the right, but we had 4 on the left. And that 4th plane, no matter what we did, there was crossing traffic with 4 and 3. And I think Chad might have brought it up to me, or Guile, or somebody that knows what they're doing in big ways. And on the ground, they're crossing, and I watched the next walk, and I can see them crossing, and we just never found a great solution. And the way they had done it in the past was to, like, if you think about a V shape of the plane, it's just take that 4th one and move it to the inside, like the beginning of a diamond. But the pilots really didn't like that. And I can't remember if it was like, I think it was turbulence coming from the lead planes, and level changes get kind of interesting when you're in multiplane formations. Visibility for the pilot, visibility for the jumpers. There was a visibility problem years ago, actually at San Marcos, when King Air and an Otter tried to do a 2-plane shot, and the pilots didn't manage their altitudes, and someone left the King Air without seeing the Otter, and they literally lost their head.
This was in San Marcos?
Yeah, 20 years ago, 22 years ago. And so, a lot of pilots don't love the idea of very different altitudes within a formation like that. So it's going to be a challenge in the future. But I mean, that's a long way to say that I think that we could go bigger if we stick to the planes we've got. I think Matt's right. Like, maybe 1 more plane, maybe 2, but it's going to be a challenge with those kind of issues. If we can go bigger aircraft, sorry, my dog just came inside. If we can go bigger aircraft, then it's possible to get all those people out sooner, and then potentially we can do something more. But I think the belly 400 OE went to 26,000. And then, sorry, she doesn't get chicken right away. She lets us know. If we go much higher than that, then Matt's right. Like, we're on miniature oxygen bottles for everybody getting out of the plane, and military style masks and just additional money. So it's going to be a challenge to go a lot bigger than where we're at. Okay, how about that video?
Oh. Yeah, that was in 2001, JRuss. I just found it online.
Yeah.
All right, what are we looking at here?
So this is going to be Seth's view, one of our outside videographers' view of the record. So JRuss, one of the things we tried for this record was treating it more like tiger stripes in terms of which plane was filling which part of the formation.
Yeah.
So in the past, we've had one plane do a whole radial, and instead we had left, and right fill in the outermost parts of the formation. So what that means is they have less distance to go, but they also have a lot of time just waiting.
Okay.
But it seemed to provide a more cleaner exit approach.
Wait, can you, JRuss, did you follow what he was saying right there, JRuss? Can you
I think
explain
so, yeah.
it to me? Mm-hmm. Can you explain what that all meant? Or Matt, can you give a little bit more?
Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, so with the 200 way, as an example, in the past we had 10 different radials,
Okay.
right? 10 different sets of pods extending from the center of the formation. And a previous method of we would assign like this whole radial to one plane.
Okay.
So that might be quad left as an example. And what that means, we talked earlier about this exit frame, everybody lining up in a single file. So now you have that whole single file now compressing and then driving in on one line of one direction to approach the formation.
Okay. On one
So,
radial, in a sense.
correct. Yeah. So we have the otter spreading them out, and then we need them to clump up and fly in together.
Okay.
And that would cause traffic because between four left trail otter and the base, there's three other otters of people. So there's just a lot of traffic and other flyers between you and where you need to go if you don't follow a very precise flight plan.
Okay.
So in what we tried in California, that outermost otter is now all those flyers have the outermost slots,
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. I
right?
think I get it.
And it's a little slower in some ways, but it has the benefit of having a more intuitive approach. And something happened on the actual record jump that we did not anticipate. So traditionally for these jumps, we have a person exit early from the lead plane, and that's a super floater. And that's a cue for all the other trail aircraft to start exiting. What we don't normally do is have three tailgate aircraft in the lead. That's pretty uncommon.
Okay.
So just before the record jump, we made a change on the camera step of an otter. And so there's one flyer on the camera step looking for the super float. Well, that flyer was looking at the wrong Skyvan.
Okay.
So that goofed up the whole timing. However, because with this design, this engineering for the approach, even with the whole plane having the incorrect timing, they were able to correct for it
Huh.
and still get into their slot and set a record.
Interesting.
I'm not sure if
So,
that makes sense over the air, but
so what do you do with that?
yeah.
How does that information affect anything?
Yeah, so for the 200 way, we haven't done the plane splits yet, but it might be advantageous to follow this similar format where if we have four left again, those flyers are on the outermost of the formation, but spanning an entire hemisphere from 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock. So then that would hopefully reduce the amount of traffic they have to get to their slot.
Okay. So does that mean, like, let's say that you, Matt, are deciding who's going to be in what plane? Previously, in other previous attempts, you would say, okay, this pod, if you're in this pod, you're in this plane. Now you actually have to sit and think through and look at, okay, I want these people from these different pods, or not pods because you don't do pods anymore, right? You do spines and ribs.
Yeah.
You would say, I want these people in this plane. I want these people in this plane. Like, you have to be much more specific and meticulous about
Right.
who's in what plane, because you're trying to put them in the best position to easily and quickly get to their slot without crossing other traffic. Is that right?
Right. Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe another way to phrase it is in the past, we had pie slices. And like this
Okay.
whole pie slice of the formation is one plane.
Yeah.
Now we're using semicircles. Right. So if you're in a plane that is closer to the lead plane, you're going to be slotted closer to the center of the formation because you're already exiting closer to the center of the formation.
Huh. Okay. That's going to take me a little bit to visualize, but
Sure.
okay. Interesting. Cool. Very cool. Okay. Is this a different video now, or is that the end of the
Oh,
first?
this is the end of the first one.
Can you back it up again? And JRuss, you reacted to something. What did you react to?
Well, I didn't know if this was the actual record video, if this is the 103 way. If it is, the last person got on in my mind right before Breakoff, which is not good or bad. It just I think I said, oh, that was tight. And it's going to happen around. I think the last person I saw was around 3 o'clock. Seth, stop moving around. But I mean,
That's amazing to me that you could see that, JRuss. My eye doesn't pick
man,
all
I
that
could
up.
be wrong.
No,
It
you're
just,
absolutely right. So right around 2 o'clock.
Will you pause it for us?
Sure.
boom. And that, is
Was
that
it-
Rook?
No,
If,
that's
No.
great.
That's too bad.
So Chris, it's paused, and then immediately after we have the Breakoff. So it's
And
down
how
to the
long
wire.
does it have to be docked to count? Is this the record? Does this count?
Yep. Well, this is the record. The judges approved it. It's been submitted to USPA. It's waiting USPA ratification before it's official. But the judges said it was good.
That's so awesome.
Yeah. So what's odd is on the very first actual attempt, we went to 16.5, and we were off by 1 grip. Like last grip came on as breakoffs happened, and we're like, all right, let's bring up the altitude just a little bit. We're not going to tell anybody, and it kept happening. And then we ended up going up 1,000 feet higher, so that's another couple seconds of working time, and it's still the same effect. So it's kind of odd that sometimes going higher actually produces shittier results, right? On paper, you're like, oh, more time should be easy.
We got it.
But we use as much time as we're given.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Super cool.
Do you have any more, Matt?
I'm happy to play the attempts.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's funny that you get so used to people's jumpsuits and helmets and what they look like, and I'm just recognizing so many people. It's great to see.
That's awesome.
So yeah, this would be the very first actual record attempt. And since we were doing a progressive buildup, limiting who's permitted to dock, we didn't really communicate that this was a record attempt. We just pretty much said, you can dock, you can dock, you can dock, and just wanted to see organically what would happen.
So you basically just told everybody they could dock?
Yes, without making it...
Without everybody knowing that everybody could dock?
Correct.
Nice.
Yeah. I think most people knew, but we didn't want to make a big to-do about it.
Dude, I love that. That's such an interesting psychological experiment, because it's like taking the pressure off of everybody to see what happens.
This is from
awesome.
16,500 feet. I mean, that's usually the altitude we go to for 40 ways. And most of this is built almost the entire time.
Wow.
Nice.
That's so awesome. I mean, dude, even that right there, that jump, so fun to be a part of.
Yeah, there were 1 or 2 participants from Europe who were actively hoping we wouldn't get it after each jump because they were having too much fun, which, man, that's a very rare emotion to have at big wave record events. Usually it's like a sludge. You're like, can we be done already? So when people are enjoying it, that's a great sign.
That's cool.
And then there was a running pool on what attempt we would get it on.
Yeah.
Which is how these records used to feel, right? In 2012 and 2015, we knew we were going to get a record. It was just a matter of which jump is it going to be.
Yeah.
And then when a jump wouldn't work, we would start figuring out who had money on a later jump, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Sabotage it, right?
Exactly. That's right. Yeah. Jerk.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. That's so neat. Well, I mean, Matt, I got to think that people enjoying it that much, that has to say something about you guys as the organizers, the atmosphere and the kind of the attitudes that you guys are bringing. I think that's really neat. That I hope that makes you feel good about you guys who are putting it all together and leading it, because that, to me, that speaks a lot about you guys, and I think that's very cool. So kudos, man. Nice work.
Thanks. Yeah, it's a vibe. Largely, my partner Andy has cultivated this his Elsinore Echelon events for years, and it's done a great job kind of building this good vibes but successful skydives.
Yeah.
And over years, he's just cultivated this cool environment that we've taken to the sequential records, now the California record, and I'd really like to carry as much of it as I can to the 200 ways.
Yeah, very cool. Do you go anywhere? Like, let's say that if I said, "Hey, Matt, can you come to San Marcos and do like some 20 ways with us. Just teach us and coach us and help us do some 20 ways safe, like just one plane or 18, whatever it is, 18 way or whatever. Do you do that ever?
Yeah, I certainly do.
Okay.
And some DZOs or DZMs have asked me about it, and I've gone to a few drop zones for that. Um, I'm also happy to give that assistance remotely as much as I can.
Cool. Okay.
Um, yeah, man, I love it. And
Awesome.
the better my friends get, the cooler shit we get to do.
Dude,
So
that's
it's a
why I started
selfish,
Crave, man.
really for me. Like
Yes.
yeah.
That is exactly why I started Crave. I was like, the more that all of us can do cool stuff, the more fun we can have together. I love it. That's awesome. Well, okay. So if you're listening and you want to get into this stuff, dude, reach out to Matt and ask him for help or invite him to come to your drop zone, whatever. I mean, he's got tons of knowledge and obviously setting a very cool atmosphere and vibe and personality. So reach out to him, man. This is cool. I'm going to try to convince my friends to help me bring you to San Marcos.
Sure. I came down a couple years ago and organized at gosh, maybe the Halloween boogie.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, great drop zone.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. All right.
Was there
Well,
anything from the record, Matt, that was like an aha moment, or was everything pretty? My camera keeps having focus issues. Was everything pretty much what you expected?
Most stuff went how we expected. Andy and I spent a large amount of time evaluating different scenarios and possibilities. Um, One of the things that streamlined the organizational part during the event is we kind of decide our decision tree ahead of time, right? When we're not emotionally invested in the moment or swayed by what's going on, but we try to make it as data driven as we can ahead of time. If this, then that. Um, Something for sure that stands out that we'll need to address for the 200 way is I look at the outer ribs. They'll need to shape out much better if we're going to build additional ribs on the outside. So it'll be more stringent on pretty much how they're flying.
And just like I said, we had a barbecue after the phase one camp, and people were just firing questions at me, and a lot of them I had to say these are kind of above my pay grade at this event. So, personally curious about, because one of the things that I think that I know was an issue for past years is there was hey, and I don't necessarily want to put this juju out to the universe, um, but especially in 2022, 2018, we were very close to the record. 2022, not nearly as much. And there was a time when Rook decided, hey, we're going to make it smaller. And it went down to, do you remember 171, 173, something like that?
Yeah, something in that range.
And so that is it's difficult to do that, especially on short notice, which we probably should have had that prepared, but we didn't. And the idea of making the formation smaller is quite difficult if you think about, like, well, in that case, we did what's called a pie crust, where we cut around the outside and just hacked off whatever it was, 30 people or 35 people, somewhere in that range. But that leaves a whole bunch of planes minus 2 or 3 people, all the planes minus 2 or 3 people, which is not economically great for the drop zone. And one of the constant questions that came up after the podcast, because actually a bunch of people at the phase one camp listened to our first podcast with Rook, was about costs associated with the record. And in my mind, I kind of made the mental hurdle of, if we don't have much of any cutting, which, did you guys cut anybody in California?
One person.
One person. So I assume a safety issue?
No, it was just enough attempts that we
Wasn't
decided.
working.
Yeah, for the group, at some point, everybody's investing a lot of time and money, and that's the decision.
Yeah.
That we made the group.
Yeah, and normally, just for the people who are listening who maybe don't have a ton of experience with big ways, it isn't I would say as an organizer, a lot of times you cut people later than the participants think they should be cut, because people are spending a lot of money and people are, hey, I've been docked in my slot for 3 jumps. And the same guy is the reason we're not getting the record. What are you guys doing? Where the organizing guys are generally, let's give this person a shot. They did a bunch of train up. They spent a bunch of money. With the idea of a much smaller bench and kind of sticking with the team, that seems to sort of eliminate kind of two birds, one stone there. With we don't have to take an economic hit for whoever the host is, as well as keeping most of the people happy as much as you can, make everyone happy. But would you agree with that sentiment? Because a lot of people are asking about cutting, and that was sort of the stock answer I was giving.
I'm sorry. Could you just
Well,
repeat or something?
that the idea, I know it's been published, less cutting, smaller bench, 5, 6 people on a 200 weight bench is pretty small from my experience. But then the drop zone doesn't have to deal with the economic impact of pie crusting, and participants don't have to deal with, I spent $10,000 to get here and I'm not going to keep trying. Like,
Yeah, I mean the general vibe I've had in the past, and I'd like to carry over to August, is we come in with the team, and I want to finish with as much of the team as I can. But the number one goal is to set a record. So I want to respect all the time and money people have invested and send home as many people as I can with the record.
Mm.
And whatever decisions lead to that, I'm prepared to make. Um, but the California record, I think, demonstrated that we can go in with no bench, and we'll probably have a small one for August, but we had no bench and the vibes were great. And what we realized and observed was there was just so much teamwork.
Mm.
We would land, and during a debrief, we'd start to like, oh, we got to look at that line. Hey, can you guys? Yep, we know. We talked about it. We sorted it out. Moving on. And
hmm,
that's such a nice feeling, like lifting up the people around you to get this job done together.
Mm.
As opposed to, I remember as a participant for some of these big ways, I would land, I'd be like, oh, I fucked it up. I'm going to get cut. That's the one. It's over for me. Shit, that sucks. And it's just this roller coaster of emotions.
yeah.
And it's stressful. And it kind of degrades from the overall experience where if we took the word record out of it and said 200 ways, fuck, it'd be fun. There'd be no stress and everyone would be having so much more fun. But as soon as we put the record on it, there's so much additional pressure that we put on ourselves, that we take on from people around us. And so I guess it's hard to describe this nebulous goal of creating a more positive event and environment for the team as a whole. So if we need to cut, we'll cut, but it's a last ditch effort, and it's not something I would want to step into quickly. I think in the past, when you have 50 or 60 people on a bench, someone doesn't have to be messing up in an egregious fashion. It could be just this combination is not working. We have 50 people. The grass is greener on the other side. Let's see who's next. Maybe they can do better.
Yeah.
And that's what I think causes that. I don't want to say a revolving door, but just this feeling of I never got a chance.
Mm.
And so I don't want that to be the case, or I want to make that as uncommon as possible.
And it also sounds like if there's no bench or a very, very small bench, limited bench, right? Like it sounds like you're giving people more responsibility. You're asking more of them, actually. You're saying, hey, take care of your position and your slot and your group and your spine and your like you said, when you come down and you see something, they're like, oh yeah, we already talked about it. Well, that's people taking responsibility. That's people actively considering and thinking and evaluating and questioning and critically looking at what they're doing and not doing. That's awesome. Like that seems like it would naturally have to be better because everybody is stepping up, because that's the expectation. The expectation is that you step up and do what you're supposed to do. And when you don't, figure out why and fix it. That's pretty cool. I mean, that's very cool, actually.
Yeah, and I mean, truly, that's like a prerequisite for us to set any more world records, much less at some point getting a 200 way, because we could have, I could enlist as many organizers as I could imagine, and
Mm,
there's not enough time to address all the issues in a 200-person formation,
yeah.
right? Like, I even just looking at the outside video, I have to zoom in quite a bit to look at the
Mm,
whole thing.
hmm.
But when organizers land, we're dealing with their pilot issues, timing issues, O2 issues. Somebody tripped and fell and pulled a hamstring. We don't know if they can still jump issues. So many things we're addressing before we even get to look at the formation.
Mm,
Um, and there's just not enough time in the day to dig into every corner
yeah.
of it to give feedback to everyone. So really, like, it has to be a team or we're never going to progress.
Yeah. That's cool. That's cool. I want to be a part of that.
3 months away.
I got work to do. I gotta do some work if I'm going to join.
And Chris, I'm almost out of questions, but we're almost at an hour, so I think that
Okay.
works. What are you looking forward to out of base camp that's coming up?
Yeah, the base camp I'm really looking forward to. I know there's a lot of folks who have asked about flying in the base specifically. Um, something we've changed this year is you don't get an invitation to the base. You get an invitation to the VWR, and then we evaluate if the base is a good slot for you. So, Chris, sometimes some flyers will view the base as kind of a gimme slot. You can
Mm,
put so flyers there. And I think history has just shown that that can't be the case,
mm,
right? The base needs to be 8 of our most capable flyers who can fly almost any slot.
mm,
Um, and then expanding outward in that daisy chain, which has a much more nuanced design than in the past, it's just our chance to um, put flyers in different slots to see where they excel. And I think that will help influence our slotting for August ahead of time and help reduce kind of that trial and error component that happens those first couple days in August. So I'm really looking forward to just putting everyone to through the ringer, myself included. Like, it's boot camp. This is our final chance.
Cool.
Mhm.
Matt, you got anything else that was on your mind that we haven't asked about? I don't know if I've asked all the right questions, but
Oh man, I'm stoked. I was
yeah,
already excited for California. Um, and now I'm just like reinvigorated and ready to double down. And there's a lot of OGs who keep swearing they're done with big ways, and when I hear them go, maybe, like, it's very heartening.
yeah.
So I think we're on the right path. I'm excited to see where this will go, and man, sky's the limit.
Yeah, I mean, in the background, I don't know if we said it on. Uh, no, this is the first time we've been on air since we had Matt and Rook, right? We didn't go last week.
hmm. No. Well,
So,
we had Matt Gainey on. Remember?
oh, that's right, Matt Gagney. We did. Okay, sorry, but I don't think we. I don't know if we talked about it on here, but for people who are listening, after the cast with Rook and Matt, we had the pleasant experience several times with a. I think all of us had at least one experience where somebody who had been on records in the past but was not planning to be on the 200 way got in touch with us and said, hey, I listened to the podcast and something about it spoke to me, and I'm gonna go back for it on the 200 way, which was super cool. And I mean that.
Really? I didn't know that. You didn't tell me that,
Oh really? Yeah,
dude. That's
yeah.
so cool.
It happened with a bunch of people, and I
That's
mean a bunch. It was
fantastic.
5 or 6,
Yeah,
but
that's awesome.
but just the thought that the stuff that we talked about landed with those people, and
Yeah,
got them excited again about the possibility of a 200 way. I think
very cool.
I think Matt's words were the stoke was really high, and just the vibe was really good. And Chris, you said that that speaks to the organizers, and certainly it does. I mean, Andy in particular with the echelon that Matt mentioned has been working really hard to have a great skill set to the group and a great vibe to the group. And I think everybody I've talked to who's been a part of it has said that he's hit it out of the park. But also, I really think that first jump and when I talked to Matt, I said, hey, how did it go? How'd you feel about it? And I think the word you used was relieved. And as an organizer you've been through a couple of attempts that didn't get to the goal, that first jump with 102 people on, and it was so close. Raj got on as Emmy got off, and or that's the story I heard, but super super close. And for every single person there, just that breath of like, oh my God, it was not that hard. It was okay. Okay, are we getting the next jump, or is it going to be 3 jumps from now? But hearkening back to older times where, in the 138 from the first jump, we were like, okay, we got this. Like we're going to get it. Or even the 164, like we're going to get this. So just to rekindle that feeling in a whole bunch of good flyers of like, not, oh man, that sucked. 40 people were off, but one person was off on jump 1. That's just it's a testament to a whole bunch of things. And I think that for the people out there, like I've definitely, sorry, I'm on a little monologue here, but I've definitely heard, I think from some of the OGs, like the changes that needed to happen ruffled some feathers. And I think that there are people out there who I heard about, some people from California who on philosophical grounds maybe are not coming to the 200 way. And I don't really get it, but that change needed to happen. And one of the things that I told my campers over and over when they ask about, why spine and ribs and blah, blah, or even for people who don't know Matt, why Matt? The constant answer I've given is because change needed to happen. We needed to do something different. And I promise people who are out there listening, or anybody else, if Rook had come to me and said, build the formation, guys, we'd be doing pods. Like I thought we could have done it in 2018, and I would have just done that again. And that would have turned off so many people. And so for anybody who's listening, the change was absolutely necessary. And I think that first jump was the proof in the pudding, man. It was really nice to see.
Yeah. And Chris, the other component, I know JRuss and I talk about OGs quite a bit. And of course, we want that experience to come for the success of a record. But man, the best part about these big way events is it's a family reunion. These are flyers from all over the world that I only see at World Records. It's every couple years.
Yeah.
So then when somebody we haven't seen in years and years and years and years is suddenly interested in coming, it's also exciting just to see like, oh, it's more of my family. I haven't seen you in 8 years. Where you been? How you been? And that's half the joy of these events.
That's cool.
And that's why I
very
look
cool.
forward to them.
Nice.
For sure.
That's awesome. Well, hey, before you sign us off, JRuss, I just want to make a quick announcement. If you're still listening this far in this episode, awesome. Thank you for staying with us. I would really like to, I've just got this on my mind. I think it's with Summerfest coming up and a boogie. I just organized it. I want to figure out how to be a better organizer. And what I'm realizing is that I really don't ever get to hear from the people that I'm serving, from the jumpers that I'm organizing. So if you're listening, if you have attended Summerfest or another boogie that had organizers, and you have some feedback that you think would help me learn what it means to be a good organizer, I want to hear that. So if you would please reach out to me over Instagram, you can reach out to my personal Instagram account, it's Chris Fikes, or you can reach out to the Crave Instagram account. You can email me, chris@cravetofly.com. You can go onto the Crave website or Facebook or whatever. You can reach out to JRuss and he'll connect you with me. But I want to know what that means. What do you, as a fun jumper, think makes a good organizer? How can we serve you better? I want to know that. I want to be a better organizer, and I want to help others be better at that, because that's a big part of what we do in the skydiving community. And so I want to hear from you. Please reach out to me and give me your feedback. I want to know. All right. Thank you.
Cool. Well, Matt, thanks for coming on again. It's been awesome, and congratulations again on the record. I know there's myself and a lot of other people are looking forward to helping you and Rick build 200 people coming up soon. And are there still slots in the base camp?
There are still slots available for the base camp. toward the end of June. So sign up on Sky Crew.
Cool. And I know
Awesome.
there's other camps still happening. I think Canada's having a record, a Canadian record.
Has a record coming up. Virginia has a record coming up. Ohio has a record coming up.
Wow.
Man, like if you
That's
can't find
awesome.
something to go to, I
Yeah.
don't know what you're doing.
Super cool.
Yeah. So still lots of ways to train up and trying to be a part of a great event. Cool. So thanks again, Matt. Congratulations again.
Thanks, fellas. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Matt.
And for our listeners, thanks for tuning into Crave. Hopefully, as always, you got something out of it. We are doing this for the people listening. So we appreciate you being here and being with us. Get out there and skydive with your friends and have a good time. And if you happen to be warming up for the 200 way, get on the Vertical Elite page and sign up for a camp and continue that journey. And,
there you go.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, guys. So as always, Crave wants you to be better, do more.
All
and
right.
we'll see you next time.
Bye, you guys. Thanks.
See you guys.